I'm Ashy, and today I am continuing my birth month animal watercolor series, and this is September, which is the rooster. Now, I really enjoyed painting these roosters because they were so bright and vivid and colorful. I didn't think I was going to enjoy rooster as much as I did, but it was super fun. So I really hope you give at least one of these three styles a shot. So I did do 3 different styles to appeal to a bunch of different kind of audiences and tastes. I did a more traditional version, a more whimsical version surrounded by flowers, and a cartoony baby version. So I hope you find one of them that appeals to you and give it a shot. Now, these tutorials are sped up. They are not real-time tutorials because each one took a little bit under an hour, and that was just too much content for one video, so I sped it up. But I did not cut out any of the painting content. It's all there from start to finish. You see the whole thing. It's just faster. I also kept my real-time instructions that I was giving while I was doing the painting, and I just kind of speed up around it. But that way you hear what I'm actually thinking and the techniques that I'm using throughout the painting. So all of it's there. If you don't feel like having a go at each of these or, more than one yourself, I do have them available for purchase as prints in my shop at shop.craftywithashy.com. So you can check that out if you want. But I really hope that you try to paint a rooster because it's just fun. They're bright and colorful and pretty easy, simple shapes. So I do recommend you check it out and try it for yourself. Let's dive into the tutorials. We're gonna start by sketching out our traditional rooster. So I'm gonna start with the scoop here for like the back and then come up to the head. So it's a little scoop and then almost a straight line, a little bit of an angle off toward the right. And then the head is just a little bit of a curve there. And then we have this part that I can never remember what it's called. It is in Trivial Pursuit, and I can never remember what it's called, but it's the little gobble part, right? I guess that's a turkey. This is a rooster, so it's different. But anyway, little shapes, right? So it's not that big of a deal that it's exactly right. It's kind of a rounded off rectangle, and then here's like a oval gumdroppy shape. And then we're gonna come into the beak, which has a little curve down on the bottom, and then it curves down a little bit on the top as well. And then coming off of the beak, we have their little crown part. So it does attach to, I don't know if it actually attaches to the beak, but it at least goes up toward the beak. And then on the back of the head, it comes off and separates from the back of the head a little bit and then curves up and around. And then it just has some jagged little like spiky looks, various heights and shapes, get them going different directions a little bit more. I don't know if there's any consistency between different roosters with how these look, so I'm just kind of making it up as I go. Just kind of jagged, right? And it curves around, attached to the head. Beak, I'm gonna add the separation from the beak and the head. And then the eye is just really a little circle here, okay? And then down from its little gobbler thingy here, we have the neck, and it kind of comes out almost straight down, and its chest is kind of pointed, and then it angles down toward the legs. Legs come off at an angle there. 1. I'll get the feet in a minute, and then leg number 2 off this way, curve back. Now give it a little bit of a belly chest area here. Okay, and then for the back of the rooster, it kind of angles up and then angles in, so it kind of gets narrower. And then we have the tail, which kind of, it has these curvy feathers. So I'm just doing like little swoops, and it gets kind of smaller in here. There might be some extra ones, but they generally are little like curved, not pointy end, just curved in. All right, now on the feather kind of patterns, I'm not gonna do a bunch, but I'm gonna do a little bit of lines to kind of separate where colors are gonna change. So from the head to this chest part is orange golden. The wing coming down here, which comes down and curves right at the leg basically, will be orange, but here is more green, okay? And then
these parts kind of have some of those curvy feathers like going up into the tail, okay? So just generally following that angle though up. And then on the back, I'm gonna do some orange feathers coming down about like that. Some of them are gonna kind of point out this way, some of them are gonna point up into the tail. These ones are kind of spikier feathers. And then we'll have some like spiky tail feathers coming up in green. And those I'm just gonna paint in with quick strokes. So I'm not really gonna draw them. I'm just putting a couple lines here to remind me to do it basically. So on the chicken's feet, they have this little like back claw. So I'm just kind of doing parallel lines out and then pointing it down to get the little claw part. And then we're gonna have the front part of the foot. So it kind of comes down and then forward and down for the little, again, little claws. We have more toes. So I'm gonna do another one, kind of curve it up and down and up and down, just to make it look kind of jaggedy, little claw, and then maybe another one kind of sticking up over that. The back foot, same idea. The back one's gonna come back and down, and this one, the foot's kind of up in the air, so they're gonna be pointed down a little bit more, like he's kind of walking off a bit. And then this one will come and angle forward. So same idea, just kind of shifted a little bit to make it look like he's walking off of that foot. Now I can lighten up the sketch with my kneaded eraser and get to painting. So I'm just gonna roll my kneaded eraser over the whole sketch here. To start, I'm gonna start with some yellow ochre mixed with some of my lemon yellow deep to get just a nice warm golden color. And this is gonna be my base wash or underpainting for my rooster. So I'm just gonna go lots of water and get it over the rooster. And I'm not really worried about getting it outside the edges because I'll actually add some yellow to the background. So actually I'm just gonna go ahead and paint this over the whole thing now. Get a little bit more of that color in onto the rooster. So the rooster is going to be greens and oranges and reds. So all of those can go well with this warm yellow color, right? Because green is made from yellow and blue and orange, red and yellow. So it all will blend well with this yellow color. Now I do want to do wet on wet, but this is super wet. So I want to let it dry just a little bit before I move on to my first layer. And I'm gonna start with my oranges and then go into my greens. And the orange that I'm gonna use is maybe cadmium orange, but I can't remember because I do plan to change this one out of my palette once it's gone. And so my swatch card of this palette has the color that I plan to put in, not this color, but I think it's cadmium orange. So I let that sit for just a minute, and then I'm gonna start getting in my orange, and I'm gonna put it in very, very loosely, and it's gonna bleed, right? Just kind of tapping it in around the head there. I wanna leave a little bit of lighter space for a highlight in some areas, so I'm not gonna put it everywhere. And areas that I don't want it to bleed as much, I'm gonna go straight in and get thicker paint. Same for the wing here. And then for the orange feathers here, okay? Anywhere that it's going too crazy, I can take a clean towel and lift it up along the edges there. So anywhere where it's just going way outside the rooster's borders, I'm gonna lift it up. And that's because I painted the whole background, right? Not just rooster, but that's okay, I'm not worried about it because I want this to be a nice loose painting anyway. So now I'm getting some more kind of linear strokes in here. Again, they're gonna bleed out though. They're not gonna stay exactly how I put them, but it's gonna start to darken up those areas. I'm gonna add just a little bit more of my yellow. Just make sure I don't have too much water on my brush, and introduce that here so that it blends a little bit more. I'm gonna start with some of my greens. So this is cobalt green deep, and it's really, really wet. And I'm just gonna take some of that and tap it in to my green areas. And I don't want to mix the orange and the green, but I do want them to blend so they can kind of touch in areas, but I don't want to disturb the paint too much. Add that color to the legs, a little bit darker, just straight from the pan. And I just sprayed down my pans really well before, so they're nice and wet. The spiky ones, I'm gonna start out at the tip and come back toward the rooster so that I start nice and thin. You can also start at the rooster and move up and out to get some dry brushing. So just nice and quick movements. Okay, turn this one into a curved one. There we go. Okay, now for some reds, I'm gonna go to a smaller brush. So that was a size 16, this is a size 8 round. And I'm gonna get some of my Perlene maroon here, because it's like a really, it's a warm red. And then I'm gonna go in around my little crown on my rooster, getting the pointy parts in, and then I'm gonna get around the head and then kind of color in the back part, add a little bit of my orange, and then rinse my brush and clean water into the rest of the area. And that will get a nice variety of values from darker to light so that there's like a little highlight there. Same thing on the little areas around the face. So kind of outline it, clean, dry off my brush, and then touch the areas around, and it'll create that variety in values. Around the eye, add a bit of that color as well. Okay, add just a little bit more to separate those sections. Now I'm gonna take a large brush, water, and blend out some of the paint from the bottom, and that's just gonna give it this kind of greenish, grassy feel for the bottom here, because I'm dragging out my cobalt green deep. Blend out any harsh lines. Okay, now I do need to start introducing a little bit of darker color. So I'm gonna take my aqua green, which is a little bit more bluey, mixing it with my cobalt green deep. And because it's a thicker mixture, it's gonna be a little bit darker. And then I'm using that to create these swoops. And because it's starting to dry, and this is thicker paint, this is not gonna bleed out as much. And here I'm just really trying to get that curve feeling. It doesn't have to be super precise or anything, but it just is creating that movement in these feathers. For in the body, I'm gonna do some little curve shapes. So I'm just literally touching and swooping around, swooping up, like little U's, little tiny shallow U's to create those feather shapes. And then if I do like one layer along the bottom here, and then one layer here, it makes it look like there's kind of 2 layers of feathers there. Chest, kind of the same idea, little curvy shapes. Just kind of trying to get where the edge of the rooster is. I'm gonna take some indigo, which is just a nice dark blue, and add that in for some shadows. And I'm kind of doing this quick and loose, not worrying too much about where they are, but I do want them more on like the bottom side of the feathers and in the darkest areas. So like this leg is nice and dark. I'm just adding that in kind of like a shadow there, and then just a little shadow in between on this leg. Okay. And then just a tiny bit on this wing. Some definition to my oranges. So I'm gonna take a little bit smaller brush, take my orange mixed with a little bit of the red to make it a deeper color. Again, these ones are like spiky feathers, so just add in some little flicky movements. And I want these to kind of spike down into the green a little bit. This direction, just some variety. And then a little bit down here. And I'm okay right here if this mixes with the green some, because this is gonna be in shadow anyway. So it should be a little bit duller of a color. Okay. And then just some really light lines here with the orange. So not a lot of paint. I need to wait for this to dry a little bit, but add some small. Lift up a highlight, okay, and then add some in here too. Just do some dry brushing actually. So not a lot of color, not a lot of paint or water on my brush here. And just some dry brushing just to get some texture. That works. Kind of bringing it all the way down to that green. And then just using the tip of my brush to get some very fine lines here. Curve them around. So it's coming kind of into the highlight a little bit so that that spot's not just like plain yellow. A little bit coming toward the back into these little spikies. Yeah. Now for the beak, I'm just going to take some yellow ochre and add that in. Just a little bit more red to the little crown here. A little bit of texture, a little bit of a shadow, some of these areas. Now for the beak, it just needs a little bit of shading. So I'm going to take some of my burnt umber mixed with some grays and put a little bit of a shadow on top toward the face and then on the bottom. I'm going to take my large brush, blend out the bottom a little bit again, add some browns to the bottom to be warmer. So add a little bit more burnt sienna, a whole bunch of water, lift some out, tap, 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 a little bit of splatter, very light, lots of water, and get a little bit of splatter of the greens, a little bit darker for into the ground, and then some of the oranges as well. So nice and light, and then some bright yellow. I am gonna lift up a little bit here just so that those tail feathers don't bleed out too much. And then I need to let it dry, and I'll come back and do the eye and the feet. On the eye, I'm gonna take a little bit of clean water and lift up just a little bit in that circle. So I added some water, scrubbed just a little bit, and then I'm gonna take my towel and lift it, and you see how that makes it lighter. The oranges tend to be a little bit staining, but you can still lift up some. And then I'm gonna let that dry off now, and then I'll go in and add some shading around it and the pupil. I'm gonna add just a little bit of some darks in. So this is my Perlene Maroon, but mixed with some like browns and purples and whatever else is in this well, just to make it a darker shadowy color, because I want to get just a little bit of dark into some of these orange areas, just like I did with the indigo for the blue. So just kind of focusing on adding little strokes of it, and then same kind of into this transition area between the green and the orange. Okay, just a little bit up into these more vivid parts that I want to stand out more. Okay, I'll come back to the feet down here. So I'm just going to use some burnt umber, maybe some burnt sienna, and some indigo, whatever's in this grayish well here. I just want it to be a warm gray. And then I'm going to add in the feet here. So I had already drawn them, so I just need to kind of follow what I did with the drawing. So a little stump and then little bumpy toes. Okay, same with the other one. I'm just using the very tip of this size 8 round brush to get this in. Okay, a little bit darker at the top. Yeah. Now for the pupil, I'm just going to take some Payne's Gray, very, very tip of the brush, and touch that in. And then I need some of my brown, like shadowy color, so the same as the light color, to get around the eye to give it the little ridge, make it have some separation and some depth. So it's almost like a little shadow there. We add just a little bit of shadow between some of these areas here. There we go. Separate that head stuff from the body a little bit. Just gonna kind of blend out the bottom here. So I'm gonna touch the feet there. They dried fast. Let's touch the feet just a little bit, add some shadow coming away. And go in and redefine a little bit. When that's dry, we add just a little bit more splatter. Now to come back and do just a touch more indigo into some of these areas. That's too much. Blend that out a little bit. So just some little curvy dash marks basically to give it a little bit more texture. And then in some of these feathers, I'm gonna add another kind of little layer. Same thing, just kind of curvy marks. Okay, cleaning up this one spot a little bit, adding just a little bit more of that green there. Okay, And the chicken looks pretty good, or the rooster I mean. Let me get just a little bit more onto the feet here. And this is wet, so it's gonna bleed out. And again, I'm okay with that. I'm aware of it. It's just a matter of knowing the look that you're going for. So now, dry it, and there is our finished rooster. For my second rooster, it's going to be standing in a field of aster flowers, because aster is the birth month flower for September. Start with getting in the head here, and then we're gonna get the back end, and that comes down to the wings. The body of the rooster is here. And for the chest, come up, bring it slight angle, but close to straight down, and then back toward that bottom curve. And we're gonna have the little red gobbly part coming into that part that sits under the eye, a rectangular gumdroppy shape. Beak is gonna come out of right above that gobbly part, top of the head, just kind of refining where it's sitting there. And they're gonna have that red crown part off the head. Make the back of the head a little bit smaller here. And then the tail is gonna come up from this back part of the wing. And again, we're gonna have the little spiky parts coming up, and then the little curvy loopy parts. And behind this wing, the legs coming down. Of this back leg, and then the front leg here. Go. Okay, eye, again, just a little bit of a circle. And I kind of edit the beak a little bit because it doesn't look quite the right shape. So I'm just gonna erase that, get top point, get a bottom part, it's better, and up, and then around the eye and head, or in the little crown part, it's gonna be that red color. I could draw the feet in, but they're basically gonna be covered by the flowers, so I'm not really too worried about them. I just get slight indication in. Now I'm just gonna lighten up that sketch by rolling my kneaded eraser over it. For the painting, I'm gonna start very similar to how I did my last one. So I'm gonna start with a wash of lemon yellow deep mixed with yellow ochre over the whole rooster. And for this one, I am gonna go ahead and leave it just with the rooster and not paint the background, just to kind of show you the difference between how the bleeds happen and keep the edges of this one just a little bit sharper. So I'm just painting inside those lines that I had drawn to make sure that that wash is fairly even, and the paint around the eye so that I don't get any bleeds into the eye. Now I'm gonna take my orange, loosen that up a little bit, and tap that in to the head and the neck. This chest part's gonna be shadowed, so I kind of want some of the orange there as well. Once I add the green, it will dull down the green. Adding a little bit thicker paint where I want it to be darker. Clean off my brush and dry it, because this is gonna have green coming here, so I don't want it to be too orange there. Okay, now to start adding the greens. So get my cobalt green deep again, and I'm gonna start adding that in. Here you can see it's gonna fill up these areas where the water is, but it's not gonna bleed out past that. So for this part that is green but shadowed, I'm just gonna tap that green in. It's gonna mix on the page and create that darker shadow color. Get those spiky looking feathers in. So up from this orange part and bringing it that way. I want to use a smaller brush for that, because that's a little bit thicker than I kind of wanted or intended. So let me go to my size 8. Same thing, but just the thinner brush. Okay, kind of extend some of these curvy feathers a little bit to make them match the length. Adding some of those curves in. Just getting a little bit of texture. It's not dry yet, so I'm just using thicker paint so that it doesn't cause cauliflowers. And I'm just doing little swoopy marks with that paint. And when I go outside of what I've already painted, it's creating dry brush texture. I'm gonna kind of loop some just to, I don't know, just different style a little bit. Get some linear marks there. I like it. Here. Now add a little bit more darkness here, a little bit of indigo, and that just creates that shadow under the wing into the leg, and just a little bit more shadow up into the chest. Same color, add add just a little bit more loopiness into the tail and the wings. A little bit of that color up into the tail feathers. Now to go back to my oranges, get a thicker orange here, a little bit of my perline maroon, and add in just a little bit of that to this transition area. It's gonna pull some of that green into that area, which I am okay with. It's just little dashy marks, make it look a little bit feathery. Rinse out my brush, dry it off a little bit, that into the highlight area, just to pull some of that color in, just a little bit more for a smoother transition. Same thing kind of along the transition for the wings. Thicker orange, this is kind of that spiky area. Go back that way, rinse, clean, dry, add some of that clean water to blend out some of the marks so that it's not too defined into just a little bit more spikiness down over the wing. Okay, now for the head, I'm gonna add in this red color, so it's the orange and the early maroon mixed. Clean, damp brush, add just water to blend out those areas. That color into the little crown, adding some red to this area. Pretty thick paint, not gonna bleed out super far. Putting it toward the back, lean my brush, take off most of the water, and then blend it out into the rest of the area. Add a little bit more red, rinsed off my brush, dried a little bit, dragging that red that I just added down. Okay, just a little bit of that bright orange, blend it out front here. Pick up a little bit of a highlight, tap for a little bit more texture, okay? A little bit of my yellow and dry brushing, so it's super light, just adding just a touch of texture. Same orange, just a little bit of dry brushing to some of these areas. Now, you can go in and add a little bit more beet, so a little yellow ochre, and then a touch of burnt umber for a shadow. Now for the ground, I'm gonna do asters. So I'm gonna start by taking a clean brush, clean water, and I'm going right over the legs, right up to the rooster. I'll touch the rooster in some spots and it will bleed a little bit, and that's okay. We're gonna have greens and purples and yellows through the field. A little bit up in the top too, so that when I splatter, it bleeds out a little bit. Now I'm gonna start by taking some yellow and splattering that in all around. Now I'm gonna take some purple. So this is a Windsor Violet and it's super vibrant. So I need to get quite a bit of water so that it doesn't just overpower and splatter some of that. Focusing more on the bottom part, but I can get some in the top too, it's okay. Some are gonna be bigger than others. I'm gonna let that soak in, bleed a little bit, and that's gonna kind of be the start of my asters. I'm actually gonna go ahead and get in some of my green. I'm gonna use the same green that I used on the rooster just to tie it together. So it's the cobalt green deep mostly. And this is why my desk is always super messy and I'm not worried about it. Green is gonna be a little bit more prominent than the other colors. Now I just really need to let that dry and not touch it for a few minutes. For the flowers, now I'm gonna take some of my yellow and add a little bit more to some of these yellow like splotches. And so I'm just dotting on a little bit of yellow into these areas. Take some yellow ochre and get that in as well. I'm gonna take some purple, and from the yellow that I just added, I'm gonna do some little swoopy marks. Okay, so I'm just using the very tip of my brush and touching it down super lightly, pulling some of them kind of away from the yellow, some of them toward the yellow. It's gonna bleed into that yellow a little bit because the yellow is not dry. I'm okay with that. Or it's gonna bleed in a lot. If that happens, dry off the brush, pick up some of that paint, and I'm just kind of varying the direction of my marks a little bit. So some are pointing up and curving a little bit. Some are coming out to the side and curving a little bit. Some are just more dots and some are more lines. That's gonna make it look like some of these flowers are facing different directions. But I'm not too worried about them being precise or like flower shaped even really, because it's gonna give the impression of these asters. Lighter and just dabbing around some various areas here to give it some texture without really being a dark value at all. A little bit of splatter and these splatters won't bleed out like the other splatters did. Same with the yellow, just a little bit of yellow splatter in. Now I can go in with a little bit of a darker value, add in a little bit more to some of these so they don't look so washed out. It's just another kind of layer. And then for my greens, get my mix here. So I'm adding more of the aqua green into it, and then just a little bit of indigo just to deepen it up and set it apart just a little bit from the Rooster, but still be that cohesive look. And then we're just gonna add in some stems. And the lighter value ones, we want to have lighter value stems as well. Then some little leaves. So I'm just gonna kind of tap my brush around. I don't really know what aster leaves look like, but we're just gonna kind of make it up. Tap the brush around, splatter in some, and that can look like little leaves also a little bit. Just looking for texture at this point. More of the yellow, more of the purple. Again, just getting in the impression of a nice full area of flowers here. And then I'm gonna go in and get some warm gray mixture, so burnt umber and Payne's gray, not too much on there, and get in the legs here, which are gonna kind of be tucked in behind the flowers, so you're not really gonna see much of the feet or the legs, but I just wanna get the hint of them in there. A little bit more of my green here going through where the feet are. Tap in more fullness, like there's a bunch of leaves just coming out around with this darker color. Some lighter value, tap, tap, tap. Very loose, okay? Splatter just a little bit of the darker color toward the middle. I need to finish the face of my Rooster, so I'm gonna take a little bit of my Payne's gray and do a dot, and then a little bit of my dark red mixture here. Outline the eye to get a bit of a shadow. Maybe just a tiny bit of my yellow to add some shading. Maybe some of my brownish gray. And some shading around the eye itself. A little bit of dry brushing to add some texture. Now to let this area dry and then sign it. And there is my completed whimsical Rooster. The more cartoony Rooster, I'm actually going to do the same pose basically as the last one. So I'm going to start with the head here, and then I'm going to curve the back, and then that's where the wing's going to come down. The belly is here up to the chest. Then we have a little gobbly thing under the eye. I'm going to do a little bit of feathery look there. And then we have the top of the beak is gonna come and curve down, and I'm exaggerating the size of the beak. Bottom part of the beak is gonna have a curve here. Come up this way, we're gonna have our little crown. It's gonna be a little bit smaller. This is kind of like a baby one. It hasn't grown into it yet. Maybe not quite as high. It's still gonna be colorful though, which baby roosters I think aren't really colorful, but that's okay. I'm gonna kind of exaggerate the scoop of the back. Tail's coming up this way, a little loopy part of the tail, and its legs, okay, and then toes, okay, back leg planted back here, and this out to the side. Looked like it was like bow-legged, so I need it to come out this way a little bit more. Okay, there we go. And then the eye, I'm gonna make just like a giant cartoony eye here, so big oval, okay, and then gonna have the colorful part here, and then the dark part there. Okay, gonna lighten up my sketch, and then I'm gonna keep this one nice and loose and paint over his body. Okay, get my orange in, green, smaller brush, thicker paint, and do my little spikies here. So I'm just adding in a little bit where I want some separation between the wing here and the legs, okay? And then on the leg, add in some darkness, edit the shape a little bit, bring up that shadowy color, a little bit of indigo to make it more shadowed. To my oranges, just a little bit of texture coming down here onto this part of the wing. and pull those wings together a little bit. So I'm blending actually the orange with the green there to pull them together. Kind of like that. And then just a little bit of some spiky looking feathers here down over the green. It's a nice thick paint. Okay. A little bit of texture in coming down from the neck, behind the head a little bit of color around the eye, a little bit of my red and orange mix here. Now I'm just blending a little bit, gonna lift up some highlight there, add a little bit more darks in to some of these oranges. Now that it's more dry, a little bit more on the greens, exaggerate some of the swoopiness here, and then just a little bit of some curves painted on the belly, a bit of texture coming down the leg or the legs. I'm just gonna take whatever's mixed up in my gray wells here. So this is all burnt sienna, burnt umber, Payne's gray. There's a little bit of indigo. So it's just kind of a gray mixture. Pull that down through the leg and the foot, just using the tip of my brush to create some jagged little shapes for the feet here. Add a little bit of warmth with some burnt umber, generally following the shape that I have on the page. I think I followed the one that made him look bow-legged, or pigeon-toed, I guess. Well, that's okay. He's a bird. He can be pigeon-toed. Just some little ridgy looking lines on the front. Now for the beak, I'm gonna make it a yellow color. So this is my lemon yellow deep and yellow ochre mixed together. And just kind of sweep that on the beak shape. I'm gonna add just a little bit more texture and darkness to the little crown and do this little gobbly area. So I'm just using a darker color and almost outlining it. And then there's the little chin one. Tiny bit of my orange and red mixture to outline the eye just a little bit. Just a little bit of a shadow there. Now, go ahead and dry it. The inside of the mouth is gonna be pink. So I'm getting my permanent rose here, lighting it up. It's gonna have some of those oranges mixed into it. So it's gonna be a little bit peach, and then take a little bit of purple to get a shadow on there. For the eye color, I'm gonna use purple. So this is Windsor Violet. And outline the purple and then tap that in toward the middle so that it doesn't get too dark or too solid, because I want to leave some highlights. And take just a little bit more greens and just create a little bit more texture on the tail here. A few more little extra swoopies that are kind of going out of the lines that I had created. Blend out just a little bit as it meets the body. And then the texture is more out on the feathers on the tail. Now I can add in my dark pupil. So this is just Payne's gray. And I'm just gonna dot in the Payne's gray in a general circle shape, but I wanna leave some white, just a tiny bit of that color, and add some around the eye just to get a little bit more definition. Now to ground him, just get some kind of dirty water here and paint over with just that dirty water over the feet, and then I can pull the color from the feet and legs to ground him, and then I can add just a little bit more. This is burnt sienna, and a little bit more of my shadowy mixture. Let's do some splatters just to give it some extra movement, warmth, some burnt sienna, some water around the head, and add just a little bit of cerulean and just wash that out, lifting up around the parts where I don't want it to bleed. A little bit of yellow. Okay. Oh no. Okay, its eye is bleeding. So I'm just gonna take my towel and lift that area up. And then once it's dry, I can go back in and fix it. I don't know. I guess I dropped some water on it, but that's okay. Just a little bit more into the sky here. Add a tad bit more texture. And I'm gonna splatter some of my greens into the ground and then some of my oranges. Now I'm gonna dry around the head again and then fix what I messed up on the eye. So I'm gonna take my purple again and tap that around. making sure to leave some areas lighter, and then take my Payne's Gray and tap that in a circle, leaving some light areas. Clean out my brush, take a little bit more of my yellow mixtures, and come on, get that back in on the beak. Okay, just a little bit of my red, come around the eye, a little bit more vibrance to the crown here. A little bit of separation between the top and the bottom of the beak here. A little bit of dry brushing to strengthen that shadow, and then just a little bit more color into the foot. And sign it. And there is my baby rooster.
Thank you so much for watching today. I really hope you enjoyed it. And just remember that these cards are available for sale on my website if you don't feel like having a go at it yourself. Have an awesome day.